Today I'm going to tell you a heart-rending story, which is not an obscure tale from the past, but one that should serve as a warning for your present and future. This is the story of the thousands of Hindu men and women of Malabar whose agony did not even find a place in the pages of history textbooks. In 1921, the Congress-supported Khilafat movement for Turkey's Islamic Caliphate was at its peak in India. Muslims were preparing to realize the dream of establishing Islamic rule, that is, Caliphate, across the world. On the one hand, violent slogans to annihilate the Kafirs were being raised in Khilafat meetings, while on the other, Indian National Congress, under the leadership of Mohandas Gandhi, was misleading Hindus with slogans of Hindu-Muslim unity. As if this was not enough, Mohandas Gandhi and Congress were even asking Hindus to contribute funds for the Islamic Khilafat movement. The religious frenzy of Muslims was in full swing. Muslim leaders were continuously touring Islamic countries, appealing to them to launch a military offensive against India so as to subjugate it under the banner of Khilafat. When sensible Hindu leaders like Swami Shraddhanand brought up the issue of jihadi slogans against Kafirs being raised in Khilafat meetings, Mohandas Gandhi smiled and said, "Muslims are only alluding to the British bureaucracy." To this, Swami Shraddhanand retorted, "Having allowed thoughts of violence and religious supremacism to take root in their psyche, the Muslim Maulanas would inevitably turn against the Hindus." Swami Shraddhanand was proven right in no time. Allah Baksh, a prominent architect of the Khilafat movement from Punjab, came to Malabar in Kerala. In an unprecedented display of religious harmony, Hindus, as opposed to horses or mules, were made to pull his car, and they were forced to raise slogans of Allahu Akbar. In August 1920, Gandhi visited Kerala to establish the Khilafat committees, while money was also being collected at a tremendous scale from the Hindus of Kerala. The Mecca returned Ali Musliar, a fanatic Islamist, and his companions Varian Kunnat Kunjahammad Haji, Siti Koya Tangal and Chembrasari Tangal and others were already preparing to establish an Islamic state in Malabar. For this, they gathered trained young Muslims and Muslim soldiers who had fought in the First World War, and they created a Khilafat army to establish the Caliphate in India. This Khilafat army was fully equipped with uniforms and weapons. The recruits took an oath on the Quran that they would give up even their lives to establish the Khilafat. As per reports, up to 60,000 soldiers were recruited in this Islamic army. They began conducting military parades in many areas of Malabar. On August 22, 1921, loudspeakers of the Jamaat Mosque declared Malabar to be a part of the Caliphate and Ali Musliar its Islamic ruler. The entire region was thus declared a Sharia-compliant zone. Flags of the Turkish Caliphate were hoisted on buildings. Specially designed daggers called Khilafat Chura were manufactured on a large scale and distributed among the Muslims. Predictably, the movement turned violent against Hindu Kafirs, who were asked to choose between Islam and death. Muslims started committing terrible atrocities on Hindus. Thousands of Hindus were forcibly converted to Islam. Those Hindus who did not accept Islam were murdered. Their homes were looted or set on fire. The wells and roads of Malabar were filled with the mutilated bodies of Hindus. Pregnant women were chopped into pieces and thrown into the forest, their unborn fetuses splattered on the streets. Innocent and helpless Hindu children were tortured and killed in front of their parents and siblings. Youths were tortured and burnt alive. Hindu women were raped and enslaved. Hindu flags were removed from the temples and Islamic flags were installed in their place. The murtis were desecrated or destroyed. Cows were slaughtered in temple premises. Thousands of naked, hungry and thirsty Hindus had to save their lives by running to the forests. Letters written by Annie Besant and a Hindu woman from Malabar to the wife of the then Viceroy reading, which contained details of all these atrocities, sent shivers down the spine. According to the Inquiry Committee report of Servants of India Society, 1,500 Hindus were murdered, 20,000 were forcibly converted to Islam, and property worth about 3 crores was looted in this horrific violence. There was no limit to the rapes and atrocities on Hindu women. As per official British records, 10,000 Hindus have been massacred. When Hindus invoked the name of Mohandas Gandhi, the president of the Khilafat movement who taught peace and non-violence, and pleaded to Muslims to stop all the violence, they replied, "Gandhi? He is a kafir. How can he be our leader?" When the news of this horrific massacre of the Malabar Hindus started spreading throughout the country, Gandhi and the Congress simply refused to acknowledge it in the beginning. But when denial became untenable, the Congress Assembly moved a mere condemnation motion. Even this was unpalatable to the so-called nationalist Muslim leaders who openly displayed their fanaticism. Maulana Fakir, Maulana Hasrat Mohani and other Maulanas vehemently opposed the condemnation motion while Gandhi and the Congress completely surrendered to them. Whoever showed concern for the plight of the Hindus and honestly reported the situation was labelled as the enemy of the country and accused of obstructing Hindu-Muslim unity. Mohandas Gandhi blamed Hindus for their own massacre. In his article published in Young India, dated January 26, 1922, Gandhi wrote, "Hindus are not without blame. They have hitherto not cared for the Moplah. They have not treated him as a friend. It is no use now becoming angry with the Moplahs or the Musalmans in general." Not just that, Gandhi justified the Muslim violence. He said, "They are a brave, God-fearing people who are fighting for what they consider as religion, and in a manner which they considered religious." Obviously, Swaraj for the Khilafat leaders meant the establishment of the Islamic Caliphate, and unity for them meant conversion of all Kafirs to Islam. For almost 5 months, Islamic rule persisted in areas such as Mallapuram, Manjeri, Pandikot and Tirur in Malabar, and the Kafir Hindus and their women were subjected to unmentionable atrocities. Because the Muslims of Malabar are also called Moplah Muslims, this massacre is known by the names Moplah Massacre, Moplah Riots, etc. The negationist historians of the left and Congress have portrayed this massacre of Hindus by Muslims as a revolt by poor peasants against the British administration and rich landlords. These left-wing historians, nurtured by the establishment, have whitewashed the creation of an Islamic territory in a part of India and the genocide of Kafir Hindus, and have projected it as a freedom movement for Swaraj. But the real history is written in the blood of those thousands of Hindu men and women who fell prey to the barbaric cruelty of Moplahs and appeasement politics.